So the incoming president had a campaign promise to relocate the US Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. It's raising questions over what impact a Trump presidency will have on international relationships. Jamie Hyams is a senior policy analyst at the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council, and he joins us now from Melbourne. Jamie Hyams, welcome. There was no mention in this morning's Donald Trump media conference of the embassy location, but his team has said it's a priority to move it to Jerusalem. Yeah. Do you expect it will happen, and do you want it to happen?
It sounds like it will happen because it's one of the things that he's been saying consistently all along. The US Congress is also very keen for it to happen. As far as whether it's a good idea, the embassy would move to areas of Jerusalem in West Jerusalem that aren't contested, that are considered universally by anyone who accepts that Israel actually has the right to exist, to be part of Israel. So there's no reason why embassies shouldn't be located there as they are in every other country's capital city.
But the Palestinians have said this would be a red line that dashes hopes for a two-state solution. A former US Consul General to Jerusalem says it would be playing with fire. Why are you supportive of something which would damage hopes for peace rather than strengthen them?
Well, I don't know if you can really call it that. I mean, the Palestinians tend to say a lot of things will be red lines, and they look for excuses not to progress with peace. But, you know, if you're talking about what's damaged prospects for a two-states peace solution, you don't need to go any further than the recent UN Security Council Resolution 2334, which basically encouraged Palestinian intransigence by almost removing the need from them to make any compromises.
OK, so we'll get to the UN Security Council resolution in more detail in a moment. But would you want the Australian government to follow suit if the US does change that embassy location to Jerusalem?
Well, certainly, if the US embassy does do that, then there would be the precedent set, and then that is something that our government should certainly look at very seriously, I would think.
John Kerry recently delivered a pretty blunt speech where he expressed his frustration at the continued expansion of settlements on occupied land. The international community, through the United Nations Security Council, has condemned that continued expansion. If that is something that undermines any chance of peace, why pursue that?
Well, the settlements at the moment cover about 1.7% of the West Bank. They haven't expanded much. They've hardly expanded beyond their existing boundaries, their geographical boundaries, since 2003. And when you talk about expansion, it's natural population growth, the same way everywhere else has natural population growth. And if you really
is a 100,000 person increase since about 2008 or 9, I think it is. That's just population growth?
Yeah, well, that is just population growth. I mean, you look at what's going on in Melbourne at the moment. You know, the population growth far outstrips that. So, you know, we're going up by that amount a year. So, you know, I think the issue with the settlements, I mean, if settlements were really the issue, in 2009 and 2010, Benjamin Netanyahu, at Obama's urging, suspended all construction in settlements for 10 months. Complete moratorium had never happened before, specifically to encourage the Palestinians to talk. Now, for the first 9 months of those 10 months, Mahmoud Abbas refused to meet with Netanyahu, and then for the last month he wanted to meet just to talk about extending the moratorium. Now, in 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, demolished and dismantled all the settlements there, pulled out every single Jewish person from Gaza, and instead of that leading to any sort of peace, that led to missiles flying over from Gaza into Israel and terror tunnels. Now, you know, there were generous peace offers made to the Palestinians in 2000, 2001 and 2008, which all would have involved Israel keeping the majority of the populated areas of the settlements because they're right on the border, and exchanging land in exchange, which basically complies with the parameters of what the Quartet was about and what Oslo was about and UN Resolution 242 was about. And in each of those occasions, the settlements did not prevent those offers being made. Each of them was regarded by the Americans as, in two cases, as generous. And the third case, in 2001, it was actually the Clinton parameters that suggested that.
You make those arguments, but clearly the international community is extremely frustrated with the ongoing settlements policy on the West Bank. If the people of Israel are to have any chance of a peaceful existence, doesn't someone need to take the high road here and take the initiative and really pull back, for example, with Israel, really pull back with those settlements so the Palestinians will sit down for peace talks?
Well, the settlements never stopped the Palestinians sitting down for peace talks until Obama made it a prerequisite. Now, the settlements are certainly an issue that needs to be resolved, along with all the other issues. But, just as, the Palestinians need to make painful compromises, pulling back on the settlements is a painful compromise for a lot of Israeli community. The West Bank is actually the heartland of biblical Israel. There's a lot of very significant sites in those areas. There's a lot of families there. And the majority of the Israeli community and population would be prepared to make those steps for peace. But they're not prepared to do that sort of thing when they're not seeing any give back on the Palestinian side, when they're getting incitement and terrorism and recalcitrance on the Palestinian side. There needs to be that quid pro quo. So for the international community to lean on Israel and say, you have to act, when they're not seeing any signs of good faith in the Palestinians, is putting them in a very difficult situation. So, yeah, absolutely, if it was going to lead to peace, it should happen. But there is no sign at the moment that any compromises and any good gestures that the Israelis make has been leading to peace.
OK, we'll have to leave it there. Jamie Hyams, thanks for talking to us this morning from Melbourne.
OK, thank you.